come this morning to the third in our series, Preparing for Christmas. Isaiah chapter 40 says, prepare a way for the Lord. And that's what we're doing through this little series together. And this is the third of the four. I always like at least once during Christmas to preach a serious message, because the story of Christmas is not all happy and jingle bells. There are some very sad and very tragic parts to it. And I want to dwell on those today so that next Sunday, just before Christmas, we'll concentrate on the joyous side. And there's plenty of that too. So today we come to the story of Herod and the wise men. You'll notice I've been using a logo in the top of the screen of holly berries, which is a symbol of the joy and the beauty of Christmas. But I think for today we need to change that, and I'll change that logo to a star. Because today is all about what star am I following. Begin with Herod, known as Herod the Great. Now before we go into Herod, I want to ask you a question. Who do you think is more dangerous? Someone who hates you or someone who fears you? And I wonder what you would answer. Well, I'm going to put up two pictures maybe to clarify. A picture of a lion and a picture of a mamba. Lions kill you out of a desire to kill. Mambas kill you out of fear. Which is more dangerous? Well, I don't think I would like to have to choose. I've heard of people staring down a lion. I've never heard of people staring down a mamba. But the lion, if you like, is driven by hatred. The mamba is driven by fear. Let me put up two other pictures. The two greatest tyrants of the 20th century, Hitler and Stalin. One was driven by hatred. The other was driven by fear. And there's nothing to choose between them. It was very easy for me to go on the internet and find a picture of Hitler looking hateful. I could not find one of Stalin looking hateful. He didn't. That's partly why he deceived Franklin Roosevelt. He's a nice guy. What's the problem? Oh, he projected as a nice person, but deep down, very driven by fear. And if he even thought someone was threatening his position, they were taken out by the hundreds of thousands. And so that was Stalin. Which one was Herod, do you think? The answer is Herod was a Stalin. He was driven by fear. Fear that somebody sometime would take his place. Let me show you a few things about Herod. He was called Herod the Great. Do you know who gave him that name? He gave it to himself. He appeared to have no problem with ego. Herod the Great, look at the people he killed. Apart from the civilians and the babies at Bethlehem, he killed a brother-in-law, a mother-in-law, and I make no comment on that one, a wife, and two sons. And by the way, in killing the sons, he put himself in the same category as Stalin, because Stalin also killed a son. Herod killed all of those people simply because he suspected they were threatening his position. Very dangerous, a person who's full of fear. Outwardly, you would never know it, but inwardly, that's what was going on. Look at the last week of Herod's life. It's most remarkable. In the last week of his life, by the way, he lay in Jericho in a room, stinking to high heaven. No one actually knows what his disease was that caused this terrible stench. He changed his will 7 times. That's neurotic. Concerned about what happens after he dies, never mind while he's still alive. He killed another son. Can you believe? And then on his deathbed, he ordered a number of highly respected men to come from around the country to his deathbed. None of them wanted to come, but none of them dared not to come. And then he issued a secret order that immediately after he died, those men were to be put to death. The reason was that he knew nobody would mourn for him. But he wanted the country to be in mourning when he died. So he killed them. A tyrant driven by fear. And I have 2 warnings for us this Christmas time. The first warning is that there are a lot of Herods out there. They're around us. They don't often have the power that Herod the Great had, but they're there. They are people who are not the least interested in your good. They're only interested in themselves and protecting their position. And I want to say there's only one way to deal with such people, the way the wise men did. They went home by another way. There is great wisdom sometimes in avoiding and getting away from certain people. Not a lot of them around, but when you come across them, just get away. Second warning is that each of us needs to be sure there's no Herod in us. Little things about Herod can creep in, and we need to watch out. St. Ignatius, hundreds of years ago, started something he called the examination of conscience, and he encouraged people to do it before they go to sleep every night. Just to examine your day and let your conscience examine your day and put questions to yourself about the day. And I just want to put 4 questions before us. Now, there's no way that you will do it in the time we're talking. There's no way you probably need all 4 questions, but maybe one will connect with you. Take it home, and in preparing for Christmas, meditate through these questions. Arising out of Herod, what am I threatened by? What threatens me? What do I regard as my little kingdom that I'm prepared to protect? Am I devious and not transparent any of the time? Remember, Herod said, "Bring me word again that I may come and worship him also." It was not the truth. Do I ever speak or act out of fear? Because these are Herod things. So those 2 warnings as we leave Herod behind. But before we leave Herod behind, I want to introduce you to something that has been meaningful to me since my 40s. I learned it also from St. Ignatius of Loyola. It's called the John 10:10 principle. I don't know if you've ever heard it. The John 10:10 principle. John 10:10 reads, "The thief breaks in to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that you may have life and have it to the full." The John 10:10 principle, there are 2 forces in this world. There are forces that are set on destroying and damaging and taking away. And then there are the forces of Christ that are set on building up and giving life. And we need to avoid the one and move towards the other. So here's the John 10:10 principle. Move away from anything or anyone that takes away your faith, hope, and love. And move towards anything or anyone that adds to your faith, hope, and love. There may be things, it may be a television program I'm watching. I enjoy it at the time, but afterwards I know it's decreased my faith, hope, and love. That's a sign not to watch that television program again. There are people who do it. I'm with them, maybe it's fun at the time, but afterwards I come home and I say, that's decreased my faith, hope, and love. There are programs and movies and books and things and people and preachers that increase my faith, hope, and love. Go back there next Sunday. And it's not the same for everyone. I might decrease some people's faith, hope, and love. I hope not, but it can happen. And yet increase for others. That's one man's meat is another man's poison. I need to move towards that which gives me life. Jesus said, I've come that you may have life in its fullness. And so that is the John 10:10 principle that I've followed now for 20-something years. So let's leave Herod behind and move on. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to point out 7 or 8 secrets of wisdom from the wise men. These are things that we should move towards because they will build our faith, hope, and love. So there are the wise men. What are their secrets? Well, the first secret was they were from the east. Now, what I mean by that is not that you're wise if you come from the east. You know, that would mean that in KZN, we're wiser than those in the Western Cape. Well, maybe in that case, yes. But normally speaking, it's not to do with east and west. What it is to do with is they traveled a very, very long way to find what God had for them. That's a secret of wisdom. Go out of your way, spend time and energy finding what God has for you. Their distance they traveled was probably about the distance from Johannesburg to Cape Town. Over desert, on camels. There's effort for you. But they were so set on finding what God had for them, they undertook that long journey. First secret of wisdom, give energy and effort to finding what God has for you. Then secondly, they came to Jerusalem. Now, I believe that was a mistake. I'm very encouraged that wise people sometimes make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. It was kind of obvious to them, you know, to get to Bethlehem, you have to go through Jerusalem, about another 15 miles. And obviously they followed the star right to Jerusalem, and they took their eye off the star and put it on their earthly wisdom and said, well, it's a king, he must be in the palace here. So off they went to the palace, and they took their eyes off the star for a moment. I'm encouraged by that. It's not so much a sin to fail, it's a sin not to get up. That's put in Afrikaans. Om te val, dit is nie sonde nie. Maar nie op te staan nie, dit is sonde. And so they take their eyes off and they get to Herod. I don't know, with Herod they maybe start to sense this is not the place. But the next thing we read is they left Herod and they saw the star again. This is all about what star are you following. Very tempting to follow the obvious stars, the kind of people who have big influence and seem to know it all. They often don't. Keep your eye on this star of the Lord's leading. And they followed the star, and I'm so grateful for that. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And I need to ask myself, how often am I filled with exceeding great joy by the things of God? What brought you great joy this year? I'm going to show you something that brought me exceeding great joy. It took about 10 seconds. Here it is.
Mapimpi putting him behind for Makazole, back to Makazole Mapimpi! Oh my!
Who got joy out of that? Oh, what a wonderful moment. One of the best little kicks we could ever see. Exceeding great joy, and it's lovely to take joy in all things in life, but especially to take joy in the things of the Lord. And so they were filled with exceeding great joy. And then we read on, they came into the place. Now think about that. They have just come from Jerusalem, from this lush palace. One aspect in which Herod was great was building. He was the greatest builder Israel ever knew, other than perhaps Solomon, and probably greater than him. And his palace was ornate beyond description. One of his many palaces, by the way. They came from this palace to a dirty, filthy cowshed. And they went in. There's a secret of wisdom there. We will not always find the things of the Lord in the pretty and in the clean and in the respectable. They were willing to go in where it was dirty and get, if not their hands, certainly their knees dirty when they knelt down there. And their gorgeous clothes in the cow muck. But there is a secret there of wisdom, to learn to look for Jesus in the less than nice places, because often that's where he is. St. Francis of Assisi had a hatred of the dirty and the ugly, and he was very much an upper-class aristocrat and wore beautiful clothes. And when he was converted, the great moment of turning for him was one day when he hugged a leper and his ministry began. He hated the dirty, and then he hugged the leper. Don't always look for God in the nice. They went in and they worshipped him. Wise people worship. It was wonderful to worship this morning with a live band. But worship is not just what I do on a Sunday morning. Romans 12 says, give your body a sacrifice to the Lord. That is your reasonable worship. Give your everything. We sang the song. It's more than a song. All that I possess, every single breath is yours. All week in worship. And so they worshipped. And that is a great secret of wisdom. And then they gave gifts. Remember the John 10:10 principle? Avoid those who take. Move towards those who give. Wise people are givers. Fools take away. So they gave gifts. It's wonderful when people give gifts. I'm going to give you a little illustration. I know it's a secular one, but I think it illustrates what I'm trying to say. There are certain people who can give, and some even have a gift of giving. One of them is a man called Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell has a remarkable gift of drawing the best out of other people. And I want to show you a clip. There was a young 22-year-old, I think he was, Welshman from the island of Anglesey, which is a little island in the north of Wales. And he came on, and he has a lovely tenor voice. You will hear it. I'm not playing the whole thing to you. It would take too long. I want you to watch what happens. He starts singing, and Simon Cowell stops him. I love the moments when Simon Cowell stops it because he's going to do something. And watch what he does for this young man. He has a couple of things to say. Then just watch what happens.
All right, well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Un giorno sai per noi verrà la libertà di amarci qui senza limiti.
Okay, Griffin, I want to say something to you,
Okay.
because you're very nervous.
Yeah.
This was very cold and mechanical for me. I sense there's more in there. I want to hear that warmth, that richness. I want you to just let go for a second.
Okay.
What else you got?
I've got Nessun Dorma.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Griffin, how good do you think you are out of 10?
Out of 10, I'd say I'm about a 6 at the moment.
That's what we just got. I want an 8. And above.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma, vincerò,
Just look at that face now. It's like a butterfly released from a cocoon. A wonderful gift. Simon said about 3 sentences and the whole thing changed. There are people like that who have the ability to give into other people's lives. Every one of us needs to try to be like that a bit. Some people have a gift. Move towards those people, and I hope people will move towards me as well, with the gift of bringing life instead of taking it away. So we are finished. The secrets of wisdom. I have one left. Right at the end, they went home by another way. And I want to leave us with this simple question. Is there something I could do another way?